Hello, welcome to week 3 lecture 14. Today we will introduce phonology to you. So, what is phonology? What is the basic difference between phonology and phonetics? We have already talked a lot about phonetics, and then we will talk about environments and distributions. We have various types of distributions like complementary distribution, contrastive distribution. We will talk about that. We will talk about minimal pairs and allophones. So, now let us know what is phonology. Phonology is the study of sounds of a particular language. So, in the previous class we talked about phonetics. In phonetics we were talking about sounds of human language in general, not of a particular language. It was about basics of sounds of a language, how sounds humans produce, how it is perceived and all those. So, it did not focus on any particular language, it was about general. But in phonology what we do is that we talk or we study sound system of a particular language. How sounds are organized in a particular language, how they function in a particular language. Because all the languages have their own set of sounds, not only own set of sounds, but also these sounds they change depending on the environment, depending on the distributions. So, it is not only about collection of these sounds, but also how do they behave in the language. So, phonology also wants to study the mental category, how these sounds are mentally stored and represented, and various generalizations concerning those categories and representations. So, it is also about various rules, how these sounds change depending on various environments, how they are stored in our mental category and all about that. So, sounds in themselves are meaningless. So, these are some of the phonological assumptions. So, when we talk about sounds in general, these sounds are meaningless. In phonetics we studied sounds, how we produce these sounds and all, but in phonology we also try to relate it to the meanings. So, we know that in general sounds are meaningless. When I say ka or e or a, they do not carry any meaning, but when they become part of a language or they come with other sounds, they can make meanings. So, just without any context, if I utter a sound, it will not carry any meaning, but that same sound in context of a particular language can mean something. So, if I just say e, e will not mean anything, you do not know what e will mean, because it is just a sound. But when I am talking about say Maghi language and I am saying e kitab, that means this book. So, e here gets a meaning which means this e. Similarly, when we see the word cat, cat means cat in English, right. So, again three sounds are coming together to give this word a meaning, cat. So, ka, a, t, individually they do not carry any meaning, but when they are combined in this particular order, then only we are getting the meaning cat. If I arrange it in some other way, I will not get the meaning of cat. I may get act, that will mean something else, but that will not mean cat. So, also depends on how I am arranging these sounds. We can see another example, shing. Shing in Dhimal, a Tibeto-Burman language, means tree, but shing in Bangla means horn. So, the same sound, same combinations of sound in one language means something else, but in other language means something other. So, always depending on the language, the meaning, the sounds get their meanings, and also depending on the language, the sounds are arranged to get a particular meaning out of it. Each language has an inventory of sounds. What do I mean by inventory of sounds? That means collections of sounds. So, when I was talking about IPA, I told you that all the sounds are not possible in all the languages. So, there are some selected sounds which are there in languages. So, say language A has certain 15 sounds, while language B have 15 sounds which among which 5 are only common with language A. So, each language has its own collection of sounds which we call inventory of sounds, selected from the whole wide range of the possible sounds that we can make, that humans can articulate. You already know that there are lots of sounds which is possible for humans to articulate, which can be part of any language, but then all of these sounds are not part of all the languages. So, all languages have its own inventory. How do we know about the inventories, or how do we know about this collection of sounds of a particular language? We will talk about that. There is a process to know about that. So, that is the study done in phonology about it. So, one of the processes that we transcribe the sounds. In the previous class, when I talked about IPA, I told you that each symbol stands for a particular sound. So, how do we use it in phonology or in linguistics? We write down the sounds using IPA symbols only, because we can't use any other script. Because if I use any other script, one will read it in one way, other will read it in other way, because we do not know. There is always mismatch between grapheme and phoneme. But when we write using IPA, we know that the particular sound or the particular symbol represents the particular sound. So, there is no chance of miscommunication. So, when we transcribe using IPA, there can be two ways of transcribing. One is called phonemic transcription or broad transcription. What do we do in that? In that we do a very broad type of transcription. We do not go into the minute details. The different sounds of a language which can actually contribute in the change of meaning are noted, are marked. So, that shows the functional differences. So, when I say cart and card, I know t and d are different sounds in English, because they are contributing in the meaning. Cart does not mean cart. So, they are different words. So, when I will give a broad description of English or broad transcription of English, then I can say t and d are different sounds. Now, I know that t is also used in various other words in English, but in certain cases t is also pronounced or articulated as t with little aspiration. Though if t is not aspirated, then also the meaning will not change, but then the native speakers of certain varieties of English, they have the tendency of making it aspirated in certain cases. So, now when I want to talk about these minute details, I will do narrow transcription or phonetic transcription. So, that talks about the detailed, accurate representations of the sounds. So, these representations may not contribute in the meaning, but they are part of the language. So, minor differences are also considered while transcribing, though that we do not do in broad transcription. So, for the example of cat and cat, k and k do not bring change in English word meanings. Cat can be said as cat, or cat and cat actually means the same thing. But when I want to transcribe narrow transcription, then I will say that k and k both sounds are present in English. For example, you can also see this word attend. In attend, broad transcription I have written with t as not aspirated, while in the narrow transcription I have marked the aspirated t, because generally attend is articulated as attend, t is aspirated here. So, though if you say attend instead of attend, there will not be any change in the meaning, but to know the accurate sound, the accurate process of articulation, we do narrow transcription. That helps us to understand the exact sound. So, we have these called narrow transcription. Now, you can also see that the writing ways or the use of brackets are different in both. So, when we write broad transcriptions, we write with these slashes, while we use these brackets when we write narrow transcriptions, which you can easily see in the way it has been written, these brackets and these slashes. So, this if you are writing like this, anyone who knows IPA, anyone who knows about this will easily understand that this is broad transcription. And when you are using these brackets, one will again easily understand that this is narrow transcription. You do not need to actually mention that I have this is a narrow transcription of the word or this is a broad transcription of the word. Just by looking at the writing convention, one can easily understand. So, there are also patterns in the organization of phonic substance which vary from language to language. Two languages may have the same sound types, but it can use it differently. So, when I said that English has this aspirated th, you can see that both sounds t and th are there in English, because both are being articulated by a native English speaker, but then they do not contribute in the meaning. But when we talk about the Indo-Aryan languages, we can generally see that t and th actually makes difference in the most of the Indo-Aryan languages. So, that means the sounds are differently being used. Not only about that, depending on the environment also the sounds change. So, environment is basically the environment for a particular sound, which means that the preceding sound and the following sound. Just like us humans, we can stay in different environments, which means the surrounding things. Similarly, for a sound also the surroundings are called environments, and for a sound what can be its surrounding? Another sound. So, environment means the preceding and the following sound, the environment in which that particular sound is there. So, now when I say environment, you might think that a sound which is in the initial position of a word do not have any preceding sound, because with that particular sound the word is being started. So, how do we study environments? We study based on distribution. There are three types of distributions. So, distributions are the set of environments in which a sound occurs or does not occur, may be restricted. In certain places, in certain positions, certain sounds in a language will not occur. Maybe that language has that sound, but it will not occur. For example, ng. Ng in Hindi can be used in sounds like rangeen, ng, but can you think of a word which begins with ng in Hindi? So, you can actually think about your own native language and think about the restrictions. Which are the sounds which you think can occur in the middle part of a word or at the end part of a word, but you can't start a word with that particular sound. You can think about that. So, that shows the restrictions. Sometimes sounds also changes in a particular word depending on the environment. So, when we talk about distributions, we see there are three types of distributions: word initial position, word medial position and word final position. That means, when a sound occurs in the initial part of the word, and then when the particular sound occurs in the middle part of the word, and when the sound is the last sound of the word. So, depending on the position or the distribution, sounds can vary. Sometimes sounds change their character, like in the previous example you saw this t is actually becoming t in attend, right. And similarly, you can also see that in certain positions certain sounds do not occur, like I gave you the example of Hindi. So, depending on the position, the quality of the sound can change. Also, there can be restrictions for the sound. So, in certain positions certain sounds may not occur. So, depending on the preceding or the following sounds, the character of that particular sound can also change. So, you can see this chart which talks about phonemes of Kurmali. Here you can see that A sound. So, all these are written in IPA. By now I am sure you know about IPA symbols. So, this is A sound. So, a word can begin with A can come in the middle position, medial position, we can see a word with that. In the last position, in the word final position also we can find A, it is nasalized here A, without nasal also we can find. So, we can also find A in the final position. But when we talk about the vowel say A, we see that it can occur at the word initial position, we have words with that. It can occur in the word middle position, medial position, we have A sound in the middle of the word, but at the end of the word we do not find the sound A, we could not find it. So, we can say that A sound do not occur at the final position, at the word ending we do not find the sound A. Again, if we talk about consonant N, we can see N can occur at the initial position, N can occur at the middle position, but again N can also occur at the final position. So, we look at all these sounds and we want to know how or where these sounds occur or where they are restricted, where they can't occur. So, if we do not find a word, as you can see in the example, second example A, we could not find any word where the word ends with the sound A. So, from that we derive that in Kurmali we do not have words ending with the sound A. So, we can say that at final position we do not find the sound A in Kurmali. So, now look at these words. So, all these are written in IPA. Here you can see a pattern. So, the pattern is that some of the vowels are getting nasalized. You know that this sound is used for nasalization. So, you see same vowel here, but here the vowel is nasal. Again you can see that here, again it is becoming nasalized. Here also it is becoming nasalized. So, now it is your work to think why or in which environment certain set of vowels are becoming nasalized, becoming nasal. So, you know how to look at the environments. Environments are the preceding or the following sound. So, preceding or the following sounds can affect a sound. So, how is it affecting? It is making a vowel sound nasalized, but why this particular vowel sound is becoming nasalized? What is the reason for it? The reason can be a preceding sound or a following sound, but what is the exact reason, that you will have to explore and think about it. Now, let us talk about distribution. When we talk about distribution, we can basically talk about two types of distribution. One is complementary distribution. When two sounds are in complementary distribution, they do not occur in the same environment. So, imagine there are two linguists and there is a project going on something. So, they want to just hire one linguist. So, they will hire one of them, but they will not hire the other. So, there are A and B, two linguists, they will hire maybe A, but not B, because both are not required in that particular project. One linguist is required, one anthropologist is required, one sociologist is required. So, only one linguist is allowed. So, one is taken, the other is not taken, because the other is not required. But in some other project where the project is not the same, the other one is hired. So, in the same place both will not go, both have its own things to do. So, sounds that are in complementary distribution with each other can never have different meanings. What happens basically is that they both serve the same purpose. That means, there will be never difference in the meaning. You can see these two examples, top and stop. Here you see that the same position top and stop is being used, but if I say top with, instead of making it aspirated, I say top, or I say top, there is no difference in the meaning. That means, t and th are in complementary distribution, but when I say top and stop, that s and t are different sounds because they are contributing in the meaning. But in stop, in the word stop, st, if I aspirate the t and say stop, stop, again there will not be any change in the meaning. So, looking at the t sound, you know that t in top and t in stop both may be different, little different, one is aspirated, the other is non-aspirated, yet both are actually part of same sound, or you can say one can be used instead of the other, and that will not bring any change in the meaning, that is complementary distribution. And then there is contrastive distribution. In contrastive distribution, what do we see? Two sounds can occur in the same slot. What do? The two sounds, they can occur in the same environment and they bring different meanings to the words. Now, if I contrast between, say, the first sound of these two words t and s, you know that these two are different sound, s and t, and change of the one, if I change t with s, the meaning is changing, one is stop, one is stop. Concentrate on the first sound, do not concentrate on the second sound. So, when we have two sounds which have their own identity, which are totally different, they can contribute in the meaning, then these are called contrastive distribution. So, if I talk about words like pat, bat, so p and b are in contrastive distribution, are in contrastive relation, because pat and bat are two words, they mean different. So, p and b are not part of the same sound. But when again I said k and k, like in the previous examples I talked about cat and cat, k and k are not in contrastive distribution, because they are not contributing in the meaning, they are not bringing change in the meaning, rather they seems to be part of the same sound with little modification. So, where there is change in the meaning due to change of the sound, those are called contrastive distribution, and when there is no change in the meaning, but little bit change in the sound, those are called to be in complementary distribution. And when I talk about distribution and I talk about change of sounds, then I mean change in only one particular sound, while rest of the sounds of the words remain same. Like in this example top and stop, you see the vowel and the last consonant, they are same, they are not changed. So, when everything is same, but only one sound is being changed and there is a change in the meaning, then that is contrastive distribution. But when there is no change in meaning, then that is complementary distribution. So, now you can look at these examples to understand it better. P and b. In Bangla, p and b, if I replace p with b, then I can see that the meanings are changed. Same for Hindi. If I change p with b or b with p, and rest of the sounds are same, then there is a change in the meaning. Same for English, pun and bun. You know pun means something different than bun. So, again you can see that rest of the sounds are same. I am changing only one sound to check whether they are in contrastive relation or they are in complementary relation. Now, when you see the word in Hindi cart and cart, cart means to cut, while cart means caught. But when you see, so you can easily know that k and k are different sounds in Hindi, because they are bringing change in the meaning. But when I do the same thing in English with cat, I do cat and cat, there is no change in the meaning, the meanings remain the same, which shows that they are not in contrastive distribution. In Hindi, k and k are in contrastive distribution, while in English they are in complementary distribution, because meanings are not changed. So, now coming to minimal pairs. So, how do we know whether these sounds are part of the same sounds, or how do we know about these distributions, contrastive distribution, complementary distribution, how do we know about that when we are exploring a new language? So, what do? We look for minimal pairs. A minimal pair is a pair of two words that differ in just one sound. So, rest of the sounds remain same. If a word is of say 3 sounds, one sound will be changed while the other two will remain same. So, just by looking at that, I will have to know whether there is any change in the meaning or not. So, if I see there is a change in the meaning, I will know that they are in contrastive distribution, because they are bringing change in the meaning, and that will help me to know that these two sounds have different values or different identity in the language. So, if I say tin and bin in English, I know t and b are different sounds, are in contrastive distribution, because they are contributing in the meaning. Please notice that the other two sounds, the vowel e and n sound, they remain same, they are not changed, they has to be totally same. In Hindi also, if I do tin and bin, I know that they are different, because they contribute in the meaning. In Malayalam also I can do it with long a. So, the vowel, I know that the vowel length are actually contributing in the meaning. The meanings are changing depending on the vowel length. So, this short vowel and long vowel are actually in contrastive distribution. They are contributing in the meaning. They are not same. So, you just can't say a long vowel instead of short, or a short vowel instead of long. You can't do that. In Kuruk also same, you can see that the vowel length is important. You just can't use a short vowel instead of a long vowel. So, they are in contrastive distribution. In Dhimal, you can see that the first sound k and n are again in contrastive relation, because they are contributing in the meaning. In all of these examples, what is common is that only one sound is being replaced, while all the other sounds remain same. So, when we want to know about the sounds, or when we want to make a phonemic inventory of a language, we need to know what are the sounds present in that language, not only what are the sounds which are articulated by the speakers, but also what are the sounds which carry its own identity, what are the sounds which actually contributes in the meaning. So, there can be like 10 sounds for example, but only 8 of them can contribute in the meaning, the other 2 can be altered with the other sounds. So, it will not matter. So, meaning is very important and related with the sounds. So, when we want to make phonemic inventory, when we want to know the exact sounds which actually contributes in the meaning of the language, then we need to make minimal pairs, we look for minimal pairs. And in all these examples, you can see by looking at these examples, we can tell little bit about the language. We can say that okay, in Malayalam and in Kuruk, the long vowels and the short vowels are important, the vowel length is very important, unlike many of the Indo-Aryan languages where vowel length does not matter. If you say teen or if you say thin, it won't matter much, right. So, if you say bin or if you say bean, so it won't matter, but that you can't do in Malayalam. You can't say kalam and you can't say kalam. So, I am not good with Malayalam, but yeah, something like that. If you do not utter the long vowel in the place of that, then the meaning will totally change. So, that shows they are in contrastive relation, because they are contributing in the meaning. So, these are about the minimal pairs. So, these are phonetically distinct sounds, hence they are different phonemes. So, when they contribute in meaning, they are called phonemes, they are different sounds, they are contributing in the meaning, that is why they all have their own identity, and that is why they are called phonemes. Now, there are certain sounds which I said can be, one sound can be used in place of the other sound. Like in English, I talked about the example cat and cat. In one I am using k, in other I am using aspirated k, and I am saying k, cat. But the meaning remains same, it does not matter whether I say cat or I say cat. So, what is k and k to each other? They are allophones, they are actually part of the same sound k. I can say this is k and it can sometimes be articulated as kh and sometimes as kh. So, sometimes we can say k, depending on the environment the native speakers will say k, and again depending on the environment they will make this k kh. So, these two actually do not contribute in the meaning, and that is why I will not say these two have their own identity or these two are different phonemes, because they are not contributing in the meaning. So, when they are actually part of one sound, these two are different manifestations of this one particular sound, then I will call them allophones. They are allophones. They are articulated differently, but they are actually part of the same sound. So, that is why these are called allophones. Depending on the environment there can be little variation, but if by chance you do not say kh, you say k in place of kh, in Hindi or in other languages meaning can change, but in English the meaning will not change. So, these are allophones. So, you can try thinking about the allophones which are there in your native language. What are those sounds which you can actually change depending on the environment? You do change, of course, you do not do it consciously, but now you can think consciously when do you do it, when do you change these sounds, and then there is no change in the meaning and you can find the allophones of your language. So, these are some of the suggested readings which you can read to know more about it. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Thank you.